Hello everybody, welcome back to the table. What I have for us today is a new knife from CRKT, and while it's new to me, it is not a new model knife this year. This right here is the CRKT Gungho, and this knife, I believe it was released back in 2018. So this is not a new model from CRKT by any means, but right now I believe there is a lot of good reasons to pick one up, because when this knife was first released, this retailed between the $30 to $40 price point. And at that price there is a lot of competition, and this one just kind of fell by the wayside. But right now, as of the posting of this video, you can pick up the CRKT Gungho for about $15 shipped to your door, which is actually a pretty good deal for what we get right here. So this knife is a lot more compelling at $15 than it was at $40, and so I'll kind of explain why a little bit in this video. So let's take a look at the CRKT Gungho. This right here is a Tom Crine design. It is a small to medium size everyday carry folder. It has very smooth G10 scales, which I think look pretty impressive. This is one of the best features of the knife in my opinion. We can see it's a G10 slab on one side with no steel liner. The rear side is a steel frame lock with a deep carry pocket clip you can reverse to tip up or tip down. And I do like that these screws are flush, so this is going to carry nice and smooth in your pocket. Should be relatively easy to carry. This blade on this one comes in at less than 3 inches, so if that's a legality for your area. It's about 2.78 inches long, and it's a 8CR14 MOV. So it has this black coating, and of course it's this very extreme Americanized Tanto blade. On this side right here, we can just see the name, Gungho Crine Design, model number, and of course the CRKT logo on the other. So we are just a basic thumb stud opening with assisted opening. This has the outburst assist. So if we look in the back, we're going to see this big spring in the handle, and that is what opens the blade up for you. It's a decent action. It's not the smoothest CRKT I've ever owned. When we look at the centering, we can see it's pretty well centered right out of the box. The washers in there, I cannot tell. They look like phosphor bronze. They could be on bearings though. It doesn't feel like it's on bearings. You know, I could be wrong on that. It could go either way, because with the assisted opening, it doesn't really matter, because once you open it up, that spring takes over. Relatively comfortable to carry. And so it has quite a little bit going for it at the $15 price point. Where it kind of falls flat on its face is when it's kind of aiming to be a higher end knife at the $30 to $40 price point, where there's a lot more competition. Even from CRKT itself, I wanted to point out very quickly, this shape, even though it's a Tom Crine design, it is very similar to the already present and popular CRKT Squid, which I think is a Burnley design. So you can see the handle shape is very similar. It looks very similar in hand, and of course the Squid is a little bit smaller, but I think they fill a very similar role into that small, medium-sized, everyday carry knife role. So I think CRKT is kind of working against itself in this case, and I think that's one of the reasons why the Gungho was not a more popular model in its heyday. But that being said, we can take advantage because this knife is now on clearance for $15. This one I picked up from Sierra. And so I'll leave a link in the description below, and hopefully it's active by the time you get to this video if this knife is of interest to you. But some of the things that lead it to being a budget knife, you know, definitely hurt it when it came to trying to shoot above its weight. So the steel frame lock does add weight to the knife. So for a small, medium-sized knife, it weighs 4.6 ounces. So for a 7-inch overall knife, that's kind of hefty. It's kind of a little, you know, pocket brick in that regard. So we have a steel frame lock. The assisted opening, some like it, some don't. So for some, that's going to be a deal breaker, and for some, that's a positive. So it's either way. So your viewpoint may be your own viewpoint. And also the blade steel, of course, being 8CR14 MOV, totally understandable at this price level. And at the $15 price point, this is pretty nice. So I will leave a link below. But when we get to that sub $20 price for a knife like this, it's starting to come up against, you know, some really cheapy competition. You know, stuff like this cheapy Amazon Basics folder that you can get for around the same price within a couple of bucks here or there. And this is all no-name steel, you know, Amazon no-name brand. And it's essentially, you know, your throwaway junk knife. But for a few dollars more, we can get an actual CRKT We can get a knife with a warranty, with a designer name on it, with the, we know who Tom Crine is. He's a name in the industry, and you're getting something that he designed in your hands for that low price. So that being said, I think now is a good time to pick one of these up, simply because I imagine they're no longer in production, and that is why they're on clearance for such a low price. A lot of the sites have them on clearance for around the $30 price point, but if you can get it for $15, again, I think at that price level, it's a no-brainer. If you want an everyday carry knife that has a name brand behind it, I think now is the best time to pick up the CRKT Gungho. So before we go really quick, I'm just going to make a few more comparisons so we can see the CRKT Gungho. I always like to compare my Kershaw Blur size-wise, so you can just see a direct comparison here. So again, it's a bit smaller than the Blur, and that being said, it actually is heavier. So the Blur comes in, I want to say, around 3.8 ounces versus 4.6 on the Gungho because of this heavy steel frame lock. Let's also make a quick comparison to the ProTech Malibu. And of course, totally different class of knife, but you can at least see the size comparisons there. Again, I will leave a link in the description. I imagine once they sell out, they sell out. So depending on when you see this video, it may no longer be relevant. So I apologize in advance if that's the case. But I think it is a handsome knife. The only things counting against it, we're counting against it when it was trying to aim for a higher price point than it's currently at. So for $15, I think the CRKT Gungho makes a really good case for itself with materials, design, and overall value, in my opinion. So hope this video was helpful. You all have an awesome day, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.